So I just got back from my second trip to Philmont, and I haven't even unpacked my pack yet. I figured since there were a lot of questions going into packing and prep for Philmont, I would show you what I ended up with on my way out. Hopefully this is helpful. First of all, let's focus on the pack. I highly recommend getting a big one. This one is actually an 80 liter that I got from REI. You can go smaller, but I wouldn't go too much smaller. 65 is probably on the smallest side, 70 is probably better. 80, 90, that's definitely the way to go. And the reason is because not only do you have to fit all your gear in there, you also have to pack crew gear such as pots, pans, ropes, bear bags, as well as your food. So this one right here actually extends up a good bit further, and so you want to have your pack no more than 70–80% in the high end full with your own gear, and still plan to have enough room to handle all the crew gear that you need to. Obviously, if you have a full crew of 12, then you can distribute the gear further and that's easier, but as it gets smaller, the crew size gets smaller, it becomes that much more difficult to handle your gear. This pack, again, I mentioned I got from REI. You don't need to get the REI brand. Osprey is another really good brand, and there's many, many others. The advantage that I recommend about REI is that if you go there, you can try it on. They'll spend the time fitting it to you, doing adjustments, but they also have sandbags for weight. And so you can put on that. You want to put on 30 pounds minimum. 40 pounds would be ideal, and walk around the store, try on different packs, get what's going to be comfortable for you, because you're going to be having this on your back a lot and a lot of weight. As I left base camp this second time, fully loaded with water, I was in the mid-40s, 45, 46 pounds. We had a scale. Last time I went 2 years ago, I was 52 pounds, so that's pretty impressive. I was able to shave some weight off of it just through what I packed and didn't pack. Of course, you know, water weight is a fixed amount, and depending on what you're going to be doing on the agenda, whether you're going to a wet camp or a dry camp or doing something very extraneous, you've got to be able to adjust how much water, and so you don't want to be at the top level of what you can hold. So you want to have a comfortable pack, and that is critical. Again, no endorsement intended for REI, just the fact that they, and I'm sure many other outfitters, will actually help you with the fitment and the weight. It needs to be comfortable. I won't go too much detail, but the main factor is going to be that you can hold the weight on your hips and not on your shoulders, because after hours of walking, if the weight's on your shoulders, your back's going to start hurting really bad in your upper shoulders. It's going to happen anyway, but the more that you have the weight on your hips, the better it'll be. So again, I've got a very big pack here. As you'll notice on the outside, before I even get into what's inside and how I packed, I have a lot of gear on the outside. That's for two reasons. One, for accessibility, so you don't have to dig through your pack if you want to get to something quick, but also it's for space, so I didn't have to put a lot of items inside my pack, and I could free up availability. Some people on our trek actually had very little on the outside and wanted to put everything on the inside, and to do so you need a bigger pack. You also have to pack very light and smaller, so it's a good factor to take into account where you're going to be putting things. I use a lot of carabiners. One thing I want to point out when you're packing and choosing, obviously using the Philmont packing list as the guide, weight and size is a factor, and so it can get extremely expensive as you start to buy more expensive, smaller size. The sleeping bag's probably the biggest example of that. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but the more that you do spend, the lighter the pack will be and the smaller you'll be able to fit items. So just something to take into account. I have a lot of carabiners. These are extra ones that I did use for various purposes. I clip them all around the pack. I've got some big ones here that we use for the bear bag and the oops bag. I won't go into that here, but that's what these bigger ones are for. You need to have in the crew a couple weight bearing. These are not climbing rated, but you can see they're bigger, heavier metal. These are lighter weight, and they hold items on the outside. So obviously you can see I'm a big fan of these platypus type. This actually is a platypus. I got this on Amazon for not much money, but it's got the clips on the outside. You want to be able to carry a lot of extra water. The minimum that you're going to be going, if you're going wet camp to wet camp, short hike, 3 liters is probably fine. 4 is better. If you're going to be going a longer distance all day, you want 4. If you're going to be going to a dry camp overnight, you're going to want 5 or 6, maybe even more water, and so liters of water. And so these clip-on ones, this is a 1 liter size. They have 2 liter size, but the clip-on are nice because when this is full of water and you stick it inside your bag, if it leaks, all your gear in there could get wet. And so I really like these. So as you can see, we did use this. It's dirty, the lid, I probably lost it along the way, but having it clipped on the outside is good. For continuing just on around the bag, if you want a camping cup, that's it's not necessary, but there's a lot of good, especially if you're a lot of good opportunities to use it, especially if you're an advisor. That's what we call the adults, and you want to have coffee in the morning. Many of the staff camps will have coffee in the afternoon and in the morning. You can use this. For the kids, most of the scouts, the opportunities are going to be most likely either going to be there's hot chocolate given pretty frequently, apple cider, you can use that. Of course, Gatorade is given, and you'll use that in your Nalgene, your water bottles. But I kept this. This is actually a fairly heavy one, but it's big, it's durable, it's a Scout one. And the size is good. The little smaller plastic ones are fine also, or you can go with that. It's really up to you. I clip it on the outside, mostly because this will become a smellable, and that's a term you'll hear a lot at Philmont. Anything that ever had anything other than water in it, any kind of food, is a smellable. So if you have an Nalgene and you put Gatorade in it 2 years ago, that's a smellable. And so you want to separate the smellables and the not. Since this is definitely a smellable, I have coffee and chocolate in it frequently, I didn't want it inside the bag. I didn't want to risk smellable getting inside the bag, so I clip it on the outside. It's probably hard to tell in the video, but this is very dirty. That's okay. Everything's going to be dirty at Philmont. Similar to what I did for my bowl, and all you need for eating utensils is a bowl and a spoon, or a bowl and a fork. I use mine is a titanium. Which means it's very lightweight. It's got the spoon on one side, the fork on the other, a little cutting edge. This is overkill. The nice thing about this, not only is it small, and I think I got it on Amazon. I'll see if I can put a link on the bottom. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but it wasn't that much money. But it's titanium, so it's extremely light, but also it won't break. I saw the plastic ones, while they're very lightweight, tend to break. We had actually this exact same one, but in plastic, break second day with one of our scouts. So, and the standard camping ones tend to break. So I recommend metal. Many camping places will have ones that are just a spoon on one side or a sport combined. I recommend metal. Again, this is super lightweight. Along with the bowl, this is plenty. It's all you'll ever need for the whole trip is a simple basic bowl. This is very lightweight. Every time you have a meal, well, as you'll see, I have it again clipped in a bag on the outside. That was not only for space, but also I didn't want any smellable particles inside my bag. So I kept it on the outside. Most people didn't. Some people put it in Ziploc bags, and then inside, that's fine too. I kept this entirely on the outside. I kept a netting bag that it could fit into so it could breathe and dry out in case it was wet. Before every meal, we would sanitize it. So we'd have boiling water, and we would put the dishes into the boiling water, and then we'd eat off of them. So the fact that it got a little dirty on the outside was not a factor at all. Continuing on the outside, you will see that I have a, let's see, this is a little bit stuck here, but because I didn't take it off during the whole trip. But I'm going to start with the trowel. The trowel is a troop provided gear. There's three primary ways to use the restroom, use the toilet. There's going to be what's called a red roof. You'll learn about that. There's latrines, which is just open air, and then there's on the trail using a trowel. This is a very lightweight aluminum shovel that you'll dig into the ground and do your business and then cover up. It doesn't touch anything. So this is you'll need some kind of shovel. You'll definitely want it to be lightweight because again, you're having to carry it. The other one is a camping chair. I use this camping chair. This is an A-Lite brand, and it's extremely lightweight. I have the exact weight on it. I want to say it was under 2 pounds, like a little over 1 pound. And it sits up. You can see it's pretty dirty, but that's okay. It sits up in a chair. You can lean back. It's the kind with only 2 legs. And I like this type of chair because of its lightweight nature. In addition to this, many people had the ones that are also lightweight with the aluminum bars and the canvas, but that they were actually the kind with 4 legs that you sit on and a backing. The nice thing about those is that you actually can lean back. You're not having to hold your weight up like you do on this with the, I don't know what this style is called, but you can see it's got 2 bars on the bottom that you sit on it and it kind of leans back. So you're having to kind of hold your weight a little bit, but it's so lightweight and convenience and packs down. You saw how quickly I just set it up. I highly recommend something like this, and it goes into the pack. I just left the pack connected on the outside of my the cover outside the outside of my pack the whole time. While you're on the trail, and of course while on the trail you can be doing frequent stops. There's packs on and pack off breaks. A pack on is less than 5 minutes. A packs off is 20 minutes or more. And so in 20-minute breaks, we do those for meals. You also we need to take a break. Being able to pull this out quickly or some chair and sit down makes a huge difference rather than sitting on rocks or trees or just on the dirt. I recommend using something. My son used, on both trips, used what's called a Crazy Creek. That's the brand of it. And this Crazy Creek is really just a chair that you sit into it. There's big ones and small ones. They can be adjustable, and it can sit on a stump real easy, on the ground, on a rock. Highly flexible. It also can be clipped and laid flat, and it's a little bit of a pad you can lay on it. On the first trip, when I was having some ankle problems, I actually took a nap on one of these. It was again, this is Crazy Creek brand. I highly recommend some form of chair. Of course, when you're at camp, most camps will have some stumps or rocks to sit on around the fire pit, but there's limited space and they're not always comfortable. So having some chair, whether it be a Crazy Creek or a chair or a full fold-out chair, is definitely highly recommended. But it's also extra weight. Some people didn't bring them, and they just were sitting on the ground, and they did that. Continuing on the outside, I've got my hat. I really recommend a wide brim hat. This one is really wide brim. It's extremely, loosen this up here, extremely wide brim. I actually did both Philmonts on this and a sea base, so it's really dirty. It needs to be cleaned. It's been through a lot. But because the brim's so big, it really covered a lot of the sun off me, because many times, many hours you'll be hiking in the sun. While there is much tree cover, it's not always there. The only negative about a really wide brim hat like this is on the back side. Because the brim's so big on the back, sometimes it hits the back of the backpack, and so you end up kind of having to keep your head down. This one's nice because I can flip it up like this, and it worked well, but it's a factor. I don't recommend just a baseball cap like what I'm wearing here, because you're not really getting much sun coverage, and so I do recommend sunscreen, but the having full coverage is absolutely, I would say, a must. It does get hot while up in the higher altitudes. It's a little cooler. Down low, it's pretty hot. This is a pack cover. This is mandatory. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's also lightweight. The REI brand that my son got actually came with a pack cover with it. Mine did not. I just bought this online on Amazon. It's a Bluefield brand. It's generic. And what happens is when it's raining, it's a rain cover. So you're just going to fit this over the pack, and it's got a little drain hole in the bottom in case water does get in. And when you're hiking and it starts raining, you're going to use this. When you're at night, since we have to keep all of these are going to have smellable items in here, so you don't want these anywhere near your tent. At no point in time does your backpack go anywhere near your tent. Once you're there, you'll learn about what's called the Bermuda Triangle, and that's a combination between each camp's going to have the fire pit, the sump, and the bear bags. You'll learn about that, but all the packs need to stay within that. So at night, that also means leaving your pack unattended. So what you do is you put this on it, lay it flat on the ground. It actually looks like a rock, and if it rains at night, you will it'll keep your pack dry, which is highly recommended. In both my experiences, we only got rained on at night once, but we were rained on every day. Most times it was just a light sprinkle, but occasionally there were some pretty big storms, so where you get really wet. So what happens is while you're hiking, it starts raining. First thing you're going to do is pull over, take your packs off, and put this on there because you just don't want to risk. I mean, number one rule is to keep your sleeping gear dry. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but for the most part, your sleeping gear should be in some waterproof bags or containers. So a pack is great. This, again, I kept mine on the outside for easy access. It just stuffs into this little pack here, and that made it entirely easy to just pull in and pull out or put away, because you really are every night, even if it's not raining, pulling this out because you don't want it to rain on. Also, there's some times when you're just going to be away from your pack, whether it be a conservation project, which you will have, or you're climbing the Tooth of Time or some other factor, you want to put this on. For example, most of our crew did not put this on, put pack covers on when we went to the conservation project, and it was about a 30-45 minute walk when we left our packs. I actually did put mine on, and sure enough, it rained. It wasn't that much, and in the end, it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal, but it did rain on items because storms in the afternoons between 2 and 4 o'clock pretty much every day. Pick up, rain a little bit, clear. Some days it's more than others. Pack cover is mandatory. That's not even optional. Continuing on my pack here on the outside, mine has these pockets right here, and you can see that, where you can put water bottles. It's netting. I really highly recommend that. Putting water bottles in there because, again, you're going to need multiple liters, and on the track we'll talk about the water bottle on the inside, but that runs out. You need multiple liters. This is actually a Camelback brand, but it's just like an Nalgene. I like it because it's clear. I mean, it's got 2 different lids, one to fill and one a quick little spout. With this little handle right here also, I can actually pull it off my pack. I leave that handle down, and then I can just pull it off my pack, do it, and then slide it back into it. So I really like this brand. This one itself actually made it to 2 Philmonts, and it's still working, so still in fairly decent shape. This one also, you can tell by its dark color, well, you can see it has dark color. I chose to make this one my smellable bottle. So I have one water bottle that's my smellable. This one I put Gatorade in, or sports, or whatever that you have on the trail. All my other water bottles were only water, not smellable. What that means is this one could attract animals, and so at night when we put all our gear and smellables up in the bear bag, this went up too. So I definitely identify one to be your smellable, one you're not going to forget, and go with that. My hands are getting dirty just from touching on this gear. This is obviously another water bottle. This is actually a Nalgene brand. This one's 1.5 liters, fully filled up, a little more than that. As I mentioned, only water. So I use this one frequently. It was kind of my spare, since it wasn't as easy to drink out of as my Camelback with the little lid. I use this frequently. I also, just for convenience, for 2 purposes, I made a little duct tape handle on this. So there's a strip of duct tape and then duct tape around here. And what that does, again, it's 2 purposes. Convenient. One, I had some way to hold it, not just this plastic thing which could break, and it's also not convenient. But secondly, so if I was going and filling water, I could just hold it by this along with several other things. It's good to have duct tape. Some people brought whole rolls of duct tape. That's just extra weight. This is probably 4 or 5 wraps of duct tape on the top and the bottom. And if you need to do a repair, for example, your tent snags or your rain gear snags or some other mechanism, I actually had to do some chair repair. Duct tape is great, and you can just peel this off and it's just as good as new. And so you get a duct tape supply, and well, that's the main reason. Some people just do duct tape around the water bottle just in general. I try to get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by doing by making a handle out of it. Not necessary, just something I enjoy doing. Okay. Mine also has, my pack right here has zippers around the waistband. I normally would keep my camera in there. I also keep a knife in there. That's just convenient. It's not necessary at all. On mine, I also put the tent, my tent on the outside here. This is a Big Agnes UL3. It's an expensive tent. I don't recommend spending the money if you don't have the desire to do so. It's not necessary. What's nice about this with the footprint, I think this is right about 3 pounds. So it's super lightweight, it's spacious. I really liked it. It was worth it for me. I followed Big Agnes and tried to get it when it was on sale. But even as good of a brand this is, there's some snags on the outside of the bag here. I got a pretty big cut here. The way I folded my tent, the footprint was on the outside, so it didn't go through. But I did. These are getting beat up. I love this tent. If you don't have a really good hiking tent, that's fine. Philmont will loan. It's not even rent. Loan. Their MSR brand tents. They're really good tents. It's actually what I used 2 years ago. They're heavier. They're narrowing in on, I believe they're 5.5 to 6 pounds, where this is just right at 3. If you, or as a scout or as an advisor, are sharing, then it doesn't really matter because you can pull the poles out, you can pull the footprint out, and you can split the weight. If you're not sharing, that's a lot of weight to do. I just wanted a good lightweight tent. I watched for sale. I think I had my 20% REI. It was on sale. I had my 20% REI, and I also had my rebate, so I got it for a decent price. I'm not condoning that you need to go spend this kind of money on a tent. But the ones that they provide are really good tents. I recommend them highly. I've also heard rumor that if you have any tent problems with their tents, they'll run up a replacement to you. Of course, you have to get to a staff camp where you can get the communication, and communication with base camp tend to be very slow, so I wouldn't count on that. But main thing here, have it. It's also, I fit mine on the outside. One of the things on the packing list is strapping lashes to pack on the outside. You really want this to be on the outside. It's okay if it gets wet. Mine never really did because my pack cover went over the outside, but I definitely recommend it as much as you can putting it on the outside. Mine had very convenient straps for that, but it's also how I got snagged. Continuing around the outside of my pack, actually that's really the main stuff. On the outside here, there's two. Mine has a zipper pocket and outside pocket. I tend to keep things only on this outside pocket that really I needed quick access to, or there was just a smaller pocket convenient because this would get wet. This is some twine. I used it as a clothesline. That was it. Really didn't need to be outside. I still had anywhere else to put it. It's more than twine. It's a thicker line. Some camps will have clothes washing facilities, not a washer dryer, but buckets, and you bring the camp suds. Others, we did on both of my trips, we did a layover at Apache Springs, did a 2-day, and there's more time because you're doing a layover to do clothes. Most of us, it was also real sunny, which is good because at some of the higher elevation camps, it's not as sunny and things don't dry as fast. It was real sunny, so we would basically clotheslines, wash our clothes, in a Ziploc baggie, so they don't want you to wash out of a sink because they only have, when there are spouts, there's only limited, and you don't want to wash in the river, so what you do is put your dirty clothes, camp suds, water, wash it in a Ziploc baggie, rinse it out, and then use some kind of line to hang it up between trees. When you do between trees, you're going to want bareback protocols, which are to put sticks around the lines to protect the bark on the tree. But I'm sure your ranger will tell you about that. Also in this is actually a Platypus brand water bottle. So this is a 2-liter one. The one I showed you earlier, not Platypus brand, is 1 liter. This one doesn't have the clip, which is why I'm not as big a fan of the Platypus ones. But you are going to have opportunities to as I mentioned earlier, if you're going dry camps, which means you're going to a camp that doesn't have any water, so you've got to carry enough water in not only for that day for making dinner and the next day out, but also for the next day out, so you want to have plenty of water. So these fold up real nice and thin, and so when you're not using them, you can store a whole bunch of these. When you need them, you pull them out, and if somebody didn't bring enough water, you can distribute the weight across your crew. Or you can just carry it yourself, but they're not all the way. Where if you have 2 liters of Nalgene's, it's 2 of these, right? They're big, And if you want to have 4 or 6 liters, which you really should plan to be able to handle for 6 liters, again, that's a lot of space. And some of our crew had that and things were bouncing around and taking a lot of space. These platypus or off-brand, but these plastic ones really go a long way. The only negative of these is what's twofold. One is, I'm just not as convinced how strong they are, that they're not going to break, and you don't want to get stuff wet. But also when you're trying to pour water, if I'm trying to pour out of this, I can pour into a bag, into the food. When you're trying to pour this, it flops down, and so you kind of need some help. Not a big negative. I almost forgot what I would consider the most important water bottle of them all. And that is the bladder style water bottle inside the pack. Many of those, the most common brand is Camelback. It doesn't need to be Camelback. And that's inside the pack here with the tube going to the outside and hooking on to your shoulder. Most modern packs have a little sleeve in here for it. So be looking for that, and then they'll also have a little connector by which they can go to the outside of the pack and then run down the side. Mine is not Camelback brand. I think it's Highline, but it's I've had it for many years. It's a 2-liter bag, and the reason I consider it so important is because when you're on the trek and you're actually hiking, it's not convenient to reach back and grab one of your bottles. Either they're inaccessible or they're on the back and you don't want to get dehydrated. That's the most important thing out there. So having a little tube right next to your mouth so you can drink continuously as you're going. 2 liters, it's also should be using all that regardless of the size of your hike, so it's also a good judge. That's convenient how much water you have. When you run out, you know you've done 2 liters. And then it's time to either start reaching for a Camelback, an Nalgene or some other bag, or what I prefer is the next 20-minute off-pack break is to go ahead and refill that 2-liter bottle, again, for convenience of having water readily available to you. So I cannot recommend enough. I would say it's quasi-mandatory. Get one of these water bottles. It doesn't need to be expensive. 2 liters is recommended, and fit it inside your pack and use that. On the front of my bag, I've also got a zipper pocket. Most of them will have some sort of zipper pocket. Because it's on the outside, you want to put things here that you're going to need quick access to. For me, that was my rain gear. So there's 2 primary pieces of rain gear. No matter what's mandatory is you need to have a good raincoat. This is a Marmot brand with a hood. It's got a zipper in the underarm, so because it turns into a sauna as soon as the sun comes out. Most days we had rain, we also had sun out with it. So it was, you get hot instantly as soon as you stopped. As soon as the rain stopped, and having a good rain jacket is critical. I don't recommend a heavy coat because it's not always going to be cold when it rains. It tends to drop a little bit in temperature, but not always that much, so a good raincoat is mandatory. Optional, but I would put in the recommended category, is a good pair of rain pants. I actually bought these after my first pair broke or tore. The first time I went. On the trek, you're going to have, most treks will have a stop at a trading post, which is a commissary where you pick up food, but also has a full store there. And you can buy replacement, you can buy food, you can buy like snacks, you can buy gear, you can buy chairs, you can buy more fuel. But on the first trek, it was day 6 or 7, I was able to buy replacement pants. On this last one was day 10 out of 12, so there really wasn't any purpose. Had I needed to buy something, I couldn't have. Or it wouldn't have been helpful. These pants are really good, they're big. The advantage of pants is that when you just have a jacket on, as the rain runs off it, it's going to hit your waist and everything down is going to get really wet. Now, on this trip, only 2 days, 2 of the rains was it really bad enough that I'm glad I had the pants. The rest of the days, I put the pants on for the most part, and it wasn't as necessary, but you never really know until it's happening. You tend to be hiking while this is going on, so everybody's trying to get going, get to the next stop, so you just put the pants on. The other brand that many people had on both trucks I've been on was Frog Tog brand. I'm not a fan of the Frog Togs. They're lightweight, they're inexpensive, but they snag really easy. Anything grabs them, they're going to rip. Now that's where having some duct tape is going to be real helpful to repair it. But you know, if you're trying to save money, definitely go with your Frog Tog, better than nothing. But my recommendation is away from it. There are several other brands out there that are inexpensive, that have fold away, that you can use. Again, this is optional, but it really weighs nothing, doesn't take up much room, so I put it as a highly recommended. So also in this main pocket here, I had a bandana. You'll see there's a bandana, tubular headgear is what they call it. I use this for two things. One, at the lower altitudes, you're really sweating. It's going to be in the high 80s, low 90s. The higher altitudes, that's not as much of a factor. So wiping sweat off. I also use this personally for when we were filtering water out. We were getting water, you're either going to get out of a spigot or out of a stream or a spring. Some of those springs are going to have a lot of little goodies, floaties, and we were calling them floaters, in there, and it's no telling what it is. Sometimes there's cows grazing out there, and so what happened was I would get this water bottle, I'd fill it up with water, and then I'd put the bandana over it, you know, fill out a water stream, and then pour it into another water bottle. It wasn't necessary. It was just something I just didn't want to be drinking and looking at floaters while I was drinking it. Because you still have Purell tabs that you'll use in order to filter the water, and so it should all be healthy. It's not harmful, so it's not necessary, but I use my bandana for that quite frequently. This is a camping towel that talks about using one. It's a really small, this is probably I think the smallest size they sell. It's a microfiber. Got this, this is Fox Outfitters micro dry towel. I got it from Amazon. This is a little on the small side. It's very lightweight, both at base camp and while you're up there if you do get the opportunity to take a shower. Some camps have them. If the timing works out, it's not always available. Having a towel is great. It's lightweight. It dries very fast, but it's so small. It's really, this is barely big enough to dry your whole body with. I used this one twice. I would go buy it again, but they do have bigger ones. But again, I'm going for lightweight. I kept it accessible in case I needed to dry off with anything. Also, in this I kept this accessible because most days, it's just a beanie, a cap. Most days when you get up in the morning, at night, it gets cold. It's not unusual for it to be down to the 40s. I don't think we experienced 30s this time on my first trek. I'm pretty sure we did. But especially the higher altitudes. So I sleep with a beanie cap, and then typically, because you're up in the morning, you're getting on the trail with all your layers, which I'll talk about in a minute, but all your layers, what you want to delayer while you're getting on the trail, because it gets hot real fast. As soon as the sun hits you, it warms up 10 degrees. So I tend to keep this on the outside where it was real accessible. I could put it out there, and also when it was cold, when we got to camp late at night, I could pull it out real quick and plop it on. Also, our gloves. Again, very lightweight, highly recommend. These are actually running gloves. Also got these on Amazon. I'll try to see if I can get a link to them. But I don't see it says what brand. Oh, Pearl Izumi. These are very lightweight gloves. It was plenty. Again, you get to camp at night. It's cold. You're trying to set up your tent, especially in the morning. Really, really cold. You will be wanting these gloves. You'll be happy you have them. By the time you get moving, all the warm gear you have, you're stripping off quickly. Some people on our trek wore heavier gloves, like mechanics brand gloves. That's fine. Those are heavier. I think that's a little unnecessary. But that's your choice, both on cost and just necessity. I do recommend gloves. They're again, these are running gloves, so they're really, really lightweight material. There's not much to them. The only other thing I have on my outside pack here is, and I recommend it, buy your own copy of the map. The trek itself will have a map that the crew leader will be responsible for, and then hopefully as you're setting up a duty schedule, the navigator will use it to go from camp to camp. I liked having my own for a couple reasons. One, I could make notes where we were, and now I have it, and I can keep track of what this was, and this is going to go into my keepsake box to track the progress. But also, there were just times when people were making bad choices, and about which route we were going to go. And I know we should let the boys figure it out, but I didn't. I was tired and I don't want to go 4 miles down the road before we figured out we're on the wrong one. So I could double check all the decisions. And as an advisor, we tend to be at the back of the line. Scouts be up front, so I couldn't always hear what was going on while decisions were being made. So rather than getting impatient, I just had my own copy and I could double check everything. There's 3 types of maps they have. They have the entire country, the entire north and south country, backcountry, which are great, and that's what the crew advisor will have, but the crew leader will have to map the overall route. But then they have a south country and a north country one. It's zoomed in a little bit. You'll be able to see where you're going in better detail. What I did is I just got and logged all of the different stops we had planned, what were the dry camps, where we're supposed to be each day, and had my own copy. And again, I used it the whole time, and it's fine. I kept it in the outside pocket so I could get to it really quickly, or it would be in my shorts pocket or pants pocket, and I highly recommend doing that. Okay, that's the outside of the pack. So you can see all that gear and everything we just went over with was accessible, either clipped onto the outside or in the outside pockets. Now let's go into the inside, and I think that's the next most important part. Most are going to have some sort of brain. One real nice feature of my son's backpack, which is also an REI brand, is that the brain is fully detachable and has straps and can become a day pack. There are many times when you're going to go on day hikes, whether that be up to go climbing or on a horseback ride, or most of the activities, whether it be shooting or climbing or whatever, are going to be a hike. You want to be able to have your rain jacket, you want to be able to have a water bottle, you want to have some snacks. Having all that in some sort of day pack is a great idea. I didn't bring one either trip, and both times I wished I had, and I will next time. My brain does not detach, but it's a good opportunity. This is the top pocket. So most of them are going to have an out pocket and an inside pocket that are only accessible once you unclip the top. So I kept the things that were more necessary on top. This is a Moleskine brand notepad. I, as the lead advisor, bought one of these and a pen and provided that to each of the crew. I should have my pen in here somewhere. And we log. I encourage logging every day, journaling. And some people did better than others, but I highly recommend it. I did it too. You can see each day, as you get to camps, there's stamps that each camp will have. Like this is Fish Camp, elevation 8554. And so that'll be able to, as you go, it's kind of a little, they give you what's called a little passport. You can do that. I did it in my journal, so it was all in one place. And so I could ride around it and journal each night before I went to bed. I really, really recommend doing this so you'll remember things. I kept it again on the top of the brain so I could get to it real fast. So we're having a 20-minute packs off break for lunch. I could eat some food and then I could do some riding. Sunscreen, of course. This was mostly just my son and I, and we went through probably about half of it. You're going to need sunscreen. There's a lot of sun up there. That was really all things. What I typically kept, I don't know where I put it, is a little first aid kit. There'll obviously be a crew first aid kit, but also for the little day hikes, we didn't always grab the big ones, so I had just a little packet first aid kit, just Band-Aids, tweezers, little things. I normally kept that right up here on top. Now going to the underside, these are items that I was still going to be able to access on the trail, but not necessarily as quickly as the top one. This is what I call my makeup bag, but it's all my smellable items that were personal care. So I've got in here, and I won't go through the whole thing, but you'll get the idea. Toothbrush, toothpaste, Advil, advisors, bring Advil, you're going to need it. I have the Blistex. I actually put, just out of convenience, a couple spare batteries for my headlamp. My headlamp I also clip on the outside. I don't know why it's not out here, but I recommend a headlamp light. I don't know why it's taken off, but that also I clip. Oh, here we go. I'd already taken it off. So this is a Rayovac brand. It takes 3 AA's, and you can put it on. And this actually has done both Philmonts, I think, on the same battery set. I may have changed them, but really good one. You need that. I again kept it clipped on the outside, so we get into camp, I'd have to go digging through my pack to find it. Back to my little bag here. So this is where I had some other medicines, like I brought some Imodium just in case I had any stomach problems, just various other little medications. I kept mostly just in this little bag here. You're not allowed to have deodorant. No deodorant in Philmont, just so if you hadn't heard that now, you're going to find it out. The other thing I normally have in here that I don't know where I put it, actually I know exactly where it is, no, is my Gold Bond. So I highly recommend Gold Bond. It's for foot powder, body powder. It really helped a lot. I'm a fan of it. I normally kept the Gold Bond in here now. I don't know why I took it out. Also in this frame here, I had some spare batteries for my digital camera. I recommend having a camera. Some people use their cell phones. I think they're harder to keep charged and just clumsy. A little camera is great. I also had the sewing kit. Didn't need it, but it did recommend having a little sewing kit for the troop. I kept it in my bag. This would be mostly like if whatever, pants tear or whatever, you can repair them. This is the little first aid kit I was talking about, so just a tiny little first aid kit. It wasn't necessary to have it, but I kept it whenever I went any kind of day hike. A water bottle, rain jacket, and first aid kit. And that was and a candy bar, granola bar, something like that. So that's everything in my in the brain. So again, it was stuff that was accessible every day because, for example, the quote-unquote makeup bag is smellable every day. I could just pull this out and put it into my smellable bag, which I'll talk about here shortly. So now going inside the bag, you'll see there's still a lot of space in here. So when I was stacking down food and everything, the bag could actually get a fair bit taller. So first thing coming out of the top is my smellable bag. When you look at the packing list, there you'll see ditty bag, you'll see various things. Some people had actually a roll-up waterproof bag. The convenience of that is a dry bag is that when you're putting this up at night in the bear bag, so what happens is all your smellables you throw into the bear bag and they go up. If it were to rain, you wouldn't want them to get wet, even though the bear bags are pretty waterproof. What I'm saying is all of your smellable items need to go into a big white bag that then go up. And if you've got everything separated around, it's going to get confused and lost. So you want to have one bag that you put all your smellables in. So I would basically open my bag. I'd get this, put my makeup bag in there. Oh, here's my Gold Bond. My Gold Bond in there. This is a 4-ounce version, and it's probably not even half used. So that was probably too big. There's smaller ones. My Gold Bond in here. I would get my water bottle, my smellable water bottle, and I would put that in here. And I would have one bag that I would go and drop into they call it the oops bag. You'll learn about that, but it's basically a bear bag where you can send stuff up after you put your primary food has gone up. And this would go up in the morning. We would just dump it all out. I'd go get all my smellables in one thing. And this is just, again, a netting bag. Very convenient and enabled me to keep all my smellables together. In here, okay, I just put the water bottle in here. My little bag with my meds and toothbrush, toothpaste, all in one place. Here's the Gold Bond I mentioned. And then everything else in here are, again, just anything smellable. So the food situation at Philmont, there's a lot of food. You'll get a lot of food after the first day or two. Most people don't eat all the food, whether they don't like it or they just don't. There's things called swap boxes, which are, as you get to staff camps, people can unload food they don't want, and you can grab whatever food you do want. And so you start, oh, I really enjoy this or that, and so you'll keep keep some supplies on you, so when you're on the trail between meals, you can keep the energy up. I recommend, just as a tip, don't keep everything. Many people would have pounds and pounds of food on them, only to not really have a chance to eat it because there's plenty of food. So just keep 1 or 2 items. I can see what I didn't eat. I kept some honey roasted cashews. These are some trail mix. I tend to keep a granola bar on me. This is peanut butter, Justin's peanut butter. It's actually really, really good. I kept that on there again just for energy if I need it. So there were 3 things that I ended up eating. And then oatmeal. I kept 2 or 3 oatmeal packets on me. What I learned on this trip is cut it open, pour some cold water in, stir it, and eat it. It's too much trouble in most cases to heat up the water, plus these get hot and you don't want to dirty up your bowl. So just eating the oatmeal cold, you still get the nourishment, the energy. It actually tastes fine, and you can do this on the trail. Our ranger actually was constantly eating these. I was actually teasing him. One day I saw him eat 5 of these. He would keep it very thin and basically make a paste and kind of almost like a granola bar and eat it out of here. But this is apple and cinnamon. There's also maple and sugar. I recommend it. I also am a big fan of the Starbucks Via packets. I went through one box. This box I think I only had 1 or 2 out of. So every morning we would just have a little like a jet boil type stove. The advisors would make some coffee. I'd make some hot water. I'd use my little cup, put one of these packets, and it actually tasted great, and that was the way to get going. So again, that was all the contents of my smellable bag. So I would keep all that together right here in the top of my pack, and so we'd get to camp, we'd do our thing, I'd brush my teeth after dinner, I'd just add back into it whatever the water bottle and my medicine bag, and then it would just go up and into the bear bags. Next morning, have it out, pull my bag out, and we were on the road. So having one bag that you can do that with is critical. Now if you have extra ditty bags or whatever to organize within your pack, that's fine, there's no problem with that. But one good one, again, some people used a waterproof sack that they could put everything together. That's fine too. We didn't really get rain out enough that that was an issue, but it could have been. Then again, if anything in here had gotten wet, I don't know if it would have been that big of a deal. Continuing, now I'm really getting deeper into the pack. This is a fleece. It has definitely seen better days. You don't want, to reiterate what they say in the pack, you don't want any cotton. Cotton loses its thermal properties as it gets wet, and it tends to stay wet for a while. Things don't always dry real quick there. You don't want cotton, and so this is a polyester thermal fleece. I mean a polyester fleece. It's pretty filthy, but I wore this pretty much. Got to camp, it got cold, I put this on first thing in the morning. Many times overnight, I actually kept it in the tent with me. I could put it over my head if cold air was coming in. If you ever have issue with cold air coming into the bag and you don't want to mummy it up, these actually work real well to kind of help keep that cold air out. This, like I said, I probably can't even tell how filthy it is, but it's quite filthy. And this was, I wore this every day. So you see, it wasn't anything else. It was right on top, because as soon as you wake up in the morning, I'd put this on, and then I'd get out of the tent. It'd be cold, and we'd start breaking down camp, which was about an hour and a half for us each day. We never actually ate. We always ate on the trail, so that wasn't even including eating breakfast. And so by the time that happened, we would be already warming up. We also, just for reference, most days we were up at 5:30, which means we're on the trail by 7. A couple days we were up at 5, which means we're on by 6:30. And the last day, because we knew we had a very, very long hike in, we were up at 4, and so we were on the trail by 6:30. We never really able to get it under an hour and a half. Again, fleece, I recommend it. Could be a sweatshirt, could be a hoodie. You just don't want cotton, okay? It'll get wet. This is my waterproof bag. So I tend to keep any of my sleeping clothes and stuff in here. Right now it's not in there now because I knew it was the last day. This is also, I'll show you, I'll get to what this is. This right here is a camping pillow. I had a Thermarest puffy one. It took up too much space. It was nice. This is a flat one. I bought it off Amazon. It's Hike-Incher. I'll see if I can get the link to it. It's actually a really cool design. It's got a little button that you push, and then it'll take air in, and then you push it and it'll release. So it's kind of like a one-way valve, and fills up. These were really nice. I kind of liked my Thermarest. It was a little more comfortable, but this was great. You see it folds down to absolutely nothing, and it's funny looking at it. I can see how dirty it is. You know, most nights you're getting into tent dirty. You can't put anything on your skin, bug spray, cleaning, whatever, after 5 o'clock. Bear protocols. So you're typically getting into bed pretty dirty. So I like this camping pillow. Again, it fills up pretty nicely. Highly recommended. This is my sleeping pad. It's the REI brand Flash. I really like it because it's an air pad. The Thermarest ones that are real thin, just a thin layer of air. I'm a side sleeper, so my hips are hitting the ground. This I slept great on. It actually blows up pretty thick. I highly recommend it. What's also nice is this thing, which is I believe it's called a schnozzle, and it actually has a little connector that connects to that flash pad, and then you just use air and you do this in 3 or 4 of these, and the pad's blowing up. So you're not having to, because you're at altitude and you're doing that every night. It makes it really, really easy. And then that pad also has another piece for releasing, and all the air goes out instantly and you roll it up. So again, just kind of to show you, this just get air and then it blows out. This is also, with the clips here, a dry bag. So I got 2 for the price of 1 here. So I kept all my things that you don't want to get wet in here. You don't want to sleep wet. I mean, you just want to sleep cold. So everything I need to stay dry was in this little schnozzle bag. I got this also from REI. Yep, schnozzle, pump bag. Okay, continuing, this is a puffer jacket. I tend to get cold, so I really focus on the warm. Like I said, my beanie. This is a jacket that you may have seen these. The jacket folds in on itself. It's down. I spent way too much money on this one. The prices have dropped a lot. You don't need to spend that much money. I've seen them on Amazon for well under $100. They still pack into, this one packs into its own little pocket. Some of them pack into a little bag, but the thermal properties of this are fantastic. It's down, it's really warm. This one is North Face 800, so it's again, I spent too much on it, but I love it. What happens, again, you get to camp at night. As soon as the sun drops, it gets cold. I would put on my fleece. I would put on, if I needed to, my rain jacket, and then I'd put on this, or put this on and maybe the rain jacket over it to block the wind, cap, gloves, and I was set. And then by morning, you would have, you get to bed, sleeping bag, and then by morning you just do the reverse of that. Which reminds me, one other thing I also forgot on the outside of my pack are some camping shoes. Let me see if I can get mine. I hung mine on the outside. The brand of camping shoes, camp shoes I used were these Croc. You want to have closed-toed, so no flip-flops or anything like that. These are really, really lightweight, a couple ounces. They're plastic and material on top. They're completely waterproof. I would just put them on a carabiner and leave them on the outside of my bag. The reason you want camp shoes, again, you want to go lightweight. Some people brought tennis shoes. Those are more weight. They could get wet. You know, these breathe real well, so even if they get wet. We didn't have any water crossings. There really shouldn't be any. When I went 2 years ago, there were water crossings. We use these. But really the main thing is you get to camp, you've been in your hiking shoes all day long, your boots or your shoes, whatever they are, and you want to just get your shoes off, get your socks off, let your feet breathe, let the socks dry out for the next day, and switch it to these. When I went first time, I was like, well, I'll do it. I don't really know that I want to carry the weight. Is that big of a deal? It's amazing. I highly recommend it. Again, you can do tennis shoes. I like these because they breathe, and so your feet really dry off and air out. So by the time you get in your bed, your feet don't smell near as bad as they would otherwise. I highly recommend some type of camping shoe, camp shoe. You don't necessarily need to be these Croc brand, but these, again, very lightweight. And was very, very pleased with these. And again, carabiner on the outside. If they got wet, so what? If you brought tennis shoes, you really don't want those to get wet. And so some people put them in Ziploc bags, put them inside their pack. This is just that much easier. Okay, continuing on the inside, I'll go through this really quick. These are Ziploc baggies that I would just put my dirty clothes in. So this is my long sleeve shirt here. It needs to be washed. Haven't washed it. Okay, there's actually 2 shirts here. Again, not cotton. This is a long sleeve wicking. This is Champion brand. This one is Columbia brand. Oh, smells bad. But it's a wicking shirt. This was actually our crew shirt from 2 years ago. They get filthy. The nice thing about putting them in Ziplocs, not only control the smell, but you can seal it, sit on it, roll it down, and it'll stay really, really packed. And so your dirty clothes that you're not ever going to wear again, you can keep separate from there. I do want to spend a little time talking about how much clothes I brought, because I think that's a helpful thing after doing a couple years. I'll get back to that. This is a compression sack, so it's where I kept all my clean clothes. Basically, again, space is a premium, and you want to keep things organized. So I want to keep all my clean clothes and my sleeping clothes in one bag. So all my clothes started here, and then as I used it, when it became I was no longer going to wear it, I'd switch my dirty clothes into a Ziploc, but I'd keep my clean clothes in here. So let me go through my my choice of clothes here, my sleeping clothes. So I highly recommend just some socks. These can be cotton, these are fine. These are sleeping socks, not my hiking socks. That way when you got in, it got cold at night. But also, these are long, just tube socks. When you're hiking, your legs are gonna get dirty all the way up here. You're gonna have dust up there. I actually, a couple times, had some white cloths that I brought, and you could just do this and the skin would change color. I thought I had a real big tan line one day, but it was really just the line of dirt from my socks. So this would kind of keep all your sleeping gear somewhat clean. So I definitely recommend some socks. My son didn't bring any, and I was wishing he had, because it also smelled a little bad in the tent. I did bring a pair of long johns. So it mentions those long underwear, tops and bottoms. I slept in them. That was my sleeping clothes. It talks about sleeping clothes. I use them. So there's the tops. Here's the bottoms. I slept in them, and the whole purpose of that was purely it gets cold at night. As soon as you're on the road, you don't want to be wearing all this, because you're going to want to layer down instantly. I'm not exaggerating. The sun crests, it hits you, jumps up 10 degrees, and it goes from 40 to 50. You start walking, the sun comes up, it's instantly 60, 70, you're sweating. You don't want to stop and have to find a place to go change clothes. So these were my sleeping clothes both times. By morning, I would take them off, put on my day clothes, I'd leave the tent and start tearing down camp. So that's how I did it. You do it how you do it. I'm cold nature, I'm always cold, so this was a big factor for me. Also mentioned, from actual clothing that I wore, I only brought 2 pairs of pants, or two bottoms of clothes. It mentioned 1 pair of pants and 2 pairs of shorts. An extra pair of shorts was unnecessary. So this is Magellan brand. I got it from Academy. These are the pants that I wear. They're really filthy. They're zip off. So if I wanted to make them into shorts, I could do that. Unzip them. They're shorts. I never did, because I was wearing pants for a reason. They have a built-in belt. Very lightweight. They are waterproof. They're not cotton, or at least water resistant, so they'll get wet, but they dry really fast. So you definitely want some of these. Some of the activities require pants. We had a couple people who didn't, and they had to end up wearing their rain pants. Didn't bring pants. So the conservation project, where you actually have to, it's a required part of Philmont, where you go do work, requires pants. The rock climbing didn't, but the horseback riding did. So some activities require pants. Just have a pair of pants ready. Other than that, I wear a pair of shorts the whole time. I did wash the shorts again in Apache Springs, and by washing the shorts, I wore the pants until they were dry, and that was it. 2 pairs of pants, 2 pairs, and I was good. Shirts wise, I wore 3 shirts. So I had my crew shirt, which is probably not in here. My crew shirt from this trip, which looks just like this, except it was blue. We had the Philmont logo, real simple, no fancy design. Some people do them. And then just our itinerary, which was really convenient, because we could always look and go, where was the itinerary? Or we'd be at a staff camp, and they'd look at the back and say, oh, you're going here, let me help you with that. So I wore 2 short sleeve shirts, 1 long sleeve shirt. Even having a long sleeve, I don't know that was necessary, but I liked it. It's very, very lightweight, wicking. And that was it. I did wash my initial shirt, which was the one for this year that looked just like this but blue. I washed it. I wore it the first 3 days, and then I washed it at Apache Springs, and then I wore it the last 2 days. So you can divvy it up. Also in here, let me see. I'm gonna pull out this bag. I'm gonna get back to this bag here. So I've got some more Ziploc bags. Again, I haven't gone through any of this yet. I've got some more okay, here are my shorts. So again, in a Ziploc bag. I think that was just because when I got to base camp, I wanted to put these somewhere I wouldn't lose them. They have a built-in belt, some good pockets, but these are the shorts I wear. These are also Magellan brand. Absolutely filthy. I washed them half the way through. And, oh, here's the shirt. I just stuffed all this stuff in when I was at base camp. That's why it's not more organized. Again, I hadn't unpacked this yet. But here we go. So here's the Philmont logo. And then on the back, the Philmont 2017, Trek 5, 630. And then each of our stops and what day they were on. You can see we finished July 11th. So you're obviously going to want to get a crew shirt. You can do fancy with designs. It doesn't matter. This simple one I really liked. I tried to organize everybody to be wearing it on the last day. I have a little bit of toilet paper left. They give rolls. And looks like it's in some. Okay. I got another, I think I mentioned I've got multiple of these. Here's another, still a little wet. Here's another 2-liter bag, Camelback. So I've got, as I mentioned, a couple of those. This is Ziploc baggies. I took extras just in case, but you don't really need that many. But I used probably 4 or 5 for clothing. I used another 2 probably for washing. Other than that, I don't know that you really need them, but you need that many. But they're lightweight, not much to them. So bringing a half dozen, a dozen is easy to do. I just kept them. These are gallon size. I definitely recommend those. This is my pack of underwear and socks, more than you want to see. But I do want to talk a little bit about the socks. Socks get really filthy fast. I use mine are Wigwam brand. They're hiking. I believe it's a wool or wool synthetic hiking sock. Really, really good. I really like them. Spend a little money on the socks. It mentions sock liners. I don't know that I really get what sock liners do. They weren't helpful to me. I did not get any blisters, but yeah, I also used a lot of Gold Bonds, so maybe that's it. So I brought 3 pairs of socks. Again, I washed them and then switched out. I would probably say 4 pairs of socks is probably better, because as the socks get dirty from the dirt and sweaty, they just get hard, and I think they lose some of their cushioning. And I could tell when my socks were getting bad. And so luckily I was able to wash. Had I not had the opportunity to wash or been disciplined enough to wash, it probably would have been bad. So I think 4 is probably safer. I'm not going to hold up my underwear, but the brand that I recommend the most is Ex Officio. They were absolutely fantastic, and probably 1 pair would have been fine the whole time. I had 3, so I could swap off 3 pairs of socks, 3 pairs of underwear, and they don't start smelling bad. I think they're antimicrobial. I really, really recommend the Ex Officio. Again, your mileage may vary, and I think that's everything. That's everything in the pack. Hopefully, the sleeping bag. Sleeping bag. So this is a waterproof bag, but it's also a compression sack. So you can see I have a couple compression sacks, like the one that had all my clothes. But what happens is a sleeping bag, you need to make it as small as possible, again, for space. It's the base. I put it at the bottom of my bag every night. This is the biggest one. There's 2 things I want to point out. So this is a 30. It's a synthetic down. I just didn't want to spend the money for the full down, but it's very lightweight. I want to say it was 2.5 pounds. You don't want a bag over 4 pounds, and really, they get expensive fast, but you really want to get a lightweight, small bag. This is a 30 degree, which was fine. Had it been much colder, it probably wouldn't have been. For those of you, I'm sure you know, 30 degree just means you won't die. Doesn't mean you'll be comfortable at 30 degrees. And I was pretty cold, but again, I had my long johns. This is a North Face brand. Yeah, Wasatch 30. So it did well. It's a mummy. They're constraining. I'm not a huge fan of mummies. Also, what I do recommend heavily is a liner. Mine is silk. It's Cocoon brand. I probably spent too much on this also. I'm going to be using it a lot, and it's filthy. For my son, we ended up just getting I don't even know what it's called. I think it was cotton, but it was a kind of a warm insulating. The nice thing about a liner is too, there are several things. You get, if it's too hot, you can just use a liner and you have a lightweight blanket. If it's cold, you add extra thermal properties, so you put the liner between you. And also, because you're getting into the liner, it's easier to wash than the full bag. So you've got in the factory, I mean, looking at my liner here, it's filthy also, and it was only seeing this daylight or at night, so no daylight. It was only out at night. So so I highly recommend a liner. I don't know if it was on the packing list or not, but it's a really good thing to have. And I think that's it. So you see my pack gets down pretty lightweight after that. The only other thing I brought, other than what was in the pack here and everything I went over, is trekking poles. Some people had them, some people didn't. I love them. You're going up mountains, you're going down mountains, you're crossing streams. Sometimes it's sandy, sometimes it's rocky. And having poles made all the difference. I use two. You know, obviously these are adjustable in length, and I wouldn't do it without them. Also, you know, while you're climbing, you can kind of help stabilize you and help lift. When you're going down, you can help lower yourself. Philmont also requires that it doesn't have the metal tip. It needs to have some kind of thing on the bottom. These are universal. This is a universal tip. We bought at Philmont. It's already poked through. This one got lost along the way, so you'll want to plan for that. They do, basically because the metal points will tear up the trail. So you'll want to go ahead and get that something ahead of time. But you can see it's probably hard to notice, but how much how much abuse these take, because you're really using them a lot. And I think that's all of it. I hope that's helpful. Please reach out if there's anything I can provide clarification on. Like I said, ditty bag to keep your smellables in and throw up at night, or put up in the bag at night, and hopefully that's it.